The fourth multi-billion naira bailout for states in 6 years by President Muhammadu Buhari has continued to be applauded by key players. The decision to disburse 656 billion naira to be shared among the 36 states as budget support facility was revealed at the National Economic Council NEC meeting. Each of the 36 states would get 18.2 billion naira in 6 tranches over the next 6 months. This is to be repaid over a 30-year period starting from 2023. The first ever bailout by the Buhari administration was within the first few months of the president's assumption of office. For many, it was a great relief. It became obvious that no fewer than 27 states were having difficulties in paying salaries, worker salaries, and pensions. Laudable as this is, the concern is that state governors use the funds judiciously on projects and initiatives that would have direct impact on the populace. Well, Nigeria Today is interrogating these and other benefits of the bailout to states. Welcome to Nigeria Today. I'm Lydia Odijochi. Thank you for joining us. Joining me to provide more insight on the president's bailout to states is Emeka Okengu, a development economist. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
He's a doctor. Also joining us via Zoom is Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, a public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Okay. Let me begin with Dr. Okengu. Bailout to states. How significant is this?
Well, significant, yes. I think how necessary. Okay, let's not even look at only significance. How important? How does this resonate? I think it's laudable. Okay, I think it's a good move. However, I also think there's a flip side to it, because we are just not, doing this for the first time. This is the 4th time that the federal government is intervening, in the affairs of the states, and the reasons have consistently been states' inability to pay salaries, states' inability to be able to meet up, with their fiduciary and how do I put it now? Their responsibilities of providing social security and social infrastructure. I do not think that this should be seen as a bailout, as it were. I should think that this should be as capital injection. And if we call it even a bailout, then I think there has to be some back end to it. I think that this should have been accompanied, by some utilization, some program to be able to now audit what had been given before. Okay, you must be able. What worthiness is all about. It's not how you what money you borrowed, but how you utilized it. I'm struggling, because as part of your intro, you also mentioned, that there are also fears, or views that some of these monies have been lent to states have not been judiciously applied to what it was intended for. And this is because you don't have a framework. I think what the federal government should have done is to have given this on that concurrent basis, okay, to be able to say, we're going to be giving you this money, but we're going to be part of the expenditure. And in doing that, then there'll be a document that everybody can interrogate. Because remember that it's not about just the governors or the people who work in public service in the state. It's about Nigerian people. So what component of this framework, has ownership? How do people now know where these monies are going to, if they don't know where the ones they got before? Because some states have said, oh, we're able to pay salaries. States are able to say we're going to complete infrastructure projects and all that. We need to know. For me, it's a good move by the federal government, no doubt. But I think that we might need to, do a little bit of torchlighting, or be able to be a little bit more stringent. Not even checks as in utilizing. In giving this, Lydia, I'm struggling to say I think the federal government must have been too hasty, to say, okay, we're going to give you 18 billion. 18 billion for what? If we're going to be releasing in 6 trenches or 3 trenches of 6 billion, to what? Okay, on what basis? What's the payback plan? Because if you're going to be using this money, what percentage of it is going to go into recurrent expenditure? What percentage is going to go into capital, and what capital projects, to what extent is it going to be impacting, on the national priorities of government? So if this ties to the sustainability plan, at what point do we now begin to build, this synergy or meeting point? Is it supposed to be helping us, now play in this, African free trade, continental, agreement that all of us are yearning, that has 2 point something billion as outputs in it? Is it supposed to be supporting the agricultural sector? Is it supposed to be supporting the security sector? Is it supposed to be supporting the educational sector? If we don't have these fights, I'm sorry, we might just also end up, seeing ourselves, throwing these states in debt. I remember that in 2023, all things being equal, this administration would have been exiting. So you're going to be getting a new administration that's going to be burdened with, debts that you can't even interrogate.
Okay.
But if we had a framework for all of us to begin that conversation now, before that money is released, a lot of people will say to you, if this man claims he's going to be putting this money here, please don't believe him. He hasn't done so. There's nothing to, and if he says he's going to be using it here, people are also going to say, what's your payback period? What's going to be the outputs and outcomes?
Okay.
I think that's why I have a little issue with that.
It's okay now. Dr. Abdurrahman, we want to hear your reactions. Now, for many, President Muhammadu Buhari is setting the pace in empowering states. What do you think about this? And especially also respond to his own insight on the bailout.
Thank you very much for your question. I think it is a departure from the past where governors usually run to Abuja and then collect allocation and run back to their state and fritter it away and still run back to Abuja for the purpose of asking for more. If you know that what you are taking is a loan and you are going to repay, I think you're going to invest it wisely. The underpinning of the loan is to support budgetary facility, especially the repayment of the previous loan that was given. For the fact that it is a loan speaks volumes. Previously, we don't have this kind of a thing. For the fact that we had almost 3 different bailouts that the president has given to keep the economy going shows that, one, he has the interest of the people at heart, because every state you go to in Nigeria, whether one is a petty trader or you trade in high quality services, most of the consumers are civil servants. Failure to pay salary is plunging the country into unnecessary chaos because the consequences will be more devastating. And that is why the president continued to focus on the health of most of the states. The second challenges has really thrown up is the fact that most of our states are not viable. If our states are viable, our governors are doing what they're supposed to do, harnessing the resources that they have in their state. I bet you every Nigerian state has the potential to take care of its financial needs. But the problem has started long ago, where the federation is structured in such a way that the governors only wait until towards the ending of the month, and they send their commissioners for finance to Abuja to attend the sharing meeting, and then they share these monies and they go back to their state and then spend it and come back to Abuja again. So this is another issue that we need to look at so that states should be viable. For instance, if you remove 3 states from Nigeria, the other states are just voting on the federal government. So the next leaders who should be thinking of electing into political offices should be people that have capacity to generate wealth. For instance, the governor of Kaduna State last week said that they don't need or they don't rely on statutory allocation from federal government to run Kaduna State. Previously, before this very particular time, Kaduna State is among the states that are dependent on federal government for loans, for support, and a host of other incentives. But the governor came out to say that we no longer depend on federal allocation to run Kaduna State. I think that is a plus. This is the kind of things we want to see across the country. It shows that the people of Kaduna State and the governor have done quite well to reposition their state in terms of IGR. You go to some of the states, IGR is very low. They rely on federal government, they rely on loans from donors, from bilateral and multilateral agencies in order to cope. States are not run like that. States are supposed to be self-sustaining.
Yeah, please. Others on the other hand, see this gesture as a kind of pampering of states and believe this will negate their standing on their own. How would you react to this, Dr. Kengu?
You see, let's first and foremost talk about viability. Mention any state in this country, and I'll tell you what resources they have that will probably put them as a first class when you're talking about the League of Nations. Okay, let's take Yobe. Yobe will be seen as one of the poorest states in the country, right? Now, Yobe has 900 million, and I stand to be corrected, 900 million metric tons of a mineral they call bentonic clay. Bentonic clay is a major ingredient for drilling. That's what they use in producing, is part of the major ingredients that they use in producing drilling mud. Okay, let's talk about a state like Borno. Okay, Borno has one of the largest belts of what a mineral they call barite and blue copper. There are very few other states that have, that endowment. Okay. We're not talking about the agricultural resources. So when you talk about, yes, I believe and I think it's pampering, and that's why I say to you, you don't throw money at problems. Okay, the moment you're not able to establish, and this is why people talk about, developing what we call business models and bankable studies. Okay, if the state wants government to intervene, what I think we should be seeing in the public domain is that Benue State or Yobe State has, developed this program where they want to now make certain that they will require the infrastructure to start putting their bentonite on the ground into, the oil sector in the southern part of the country, and they'll be requiring 6 billion or 7 billion to do this. Now, what this means is that it may be in about 2-3 years, by the time this moratorium is over, they're able to now show you what you call that point of return on investments, whereas you're also seeing that point of return on equity. So if you don't have that, it simply means that the states are going to be deciding what they're going to be doing with this money, and then priorities can begin to change. For me, for President Buhari, I think that this is some last ditch to be able to keep that promise that he promised Nigerians. There are two major things he's preached. One is inclusive growth. The other one is change. And inclusivity means that everybody leave no one behind. And then you carry this money and give to a state that has no plans. The moment they start paying contractors are owing, and like my brother said, part of the money is also supposed to help the states start paying back what they had borrowed. Exactly. So how do you begin to monitor? I can tell you for certain, I'm doing a project now that's taking me to 1 or 2 states, for the United Nations. And what I found out in one of the places I've gone to, that even common counterpart funding of 10% as against the 90% being provided by a lot of these United Nations, agencies are not even paid for by the states. And you go to a place like in the primary education sector, where you have the matching grants also coming from the World Bank, where the World Bank matches, I think, 60-40%, and then states can be able to access it. A lot of states are not able to access that funds because they can't even pay for that counterpart funding.
Okay, let us take a break here. There's still a lot more to talk about. Don't go away. The experts are still here to give us more insight on the bailout.
This is NTA News 24 broadcasting from Abuja. You can watch us anywhere, anytime on the following platforms.
Star Times, Channel 101, Free TV, Channel 743, STV, Channel 419, and TV, Channel 446.
For more information, log on to our website www.nta.ng or join us on our social media handles, Facebook at NTA News 24.
For comments, suggestions and inquiries, send an email to news24@nta.gov.ng or call us on the following numbers.
NTA News 24,
news and more news.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. We still have our guests in the house, Dr. Emeka Okengu, a development economist, and Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu joining us via Zoom. He is a public affairs analyst. Let me get back to Dr. Abdurrahman. Now, just like Dr. Okengu was speaking earlier about the bailout to states and how these bailouts had been used previously, some states have allegedly misappropriated previous bailouts. What can be done to mitigate this?
Well, that is one of the fundamental challenges we are facing in this country. Issues around accountability. We are witnesses to a lot of mischief that has gone into public governance and service delivery in this country, where people's challenges are capitalized on to remove monies from the system that will end up in private pockets. We've seen it with the fight against the insurgency. We've seen it in the power sector, where $16 billion was withdrawn and allegedly not used for the purpose it's supposed to be used for. As a problem solver, as people that want to progress, once you've identified areas of investment, you've got to have a plan. You've got to have monitoring and evaluation, key performance indicators in place that will show that, okay, you've made the investment. What is likely to ruin this investment? What are the mitigants that you can bring to bear? And at the end of the day, you can mention progress. For instance, these are particular funds. In other funds that were given were supposed to go into health sector, agriculture, and SMEs. Now, the question is, how many SMEs have come into existence since that fund, all those funds were given to the state? Nobody can give you this answer. If you ask, what is the investment in agriculture? How many of the farmers benefited? You can get the answer. If you ask again, what are the reforms that have been carried out in the health sector to the extent that the health system has become enhanced to deliver impactful services to the people? You can get the answer. So, the president may have a very good intention, but once the plans are not there, the spending plans, the M&E plan, and other framework that's supposed to guarantee accountability and to ensure that these funds will go into the areas that has been mapped out as the sole beneficiaries, I'm afraid the only benefit would be that contractors may benefit, salaries may be paid, and then the economy will keep floating. But that the desired impact, being felt, being seen, being measured, is something that I doubt very much will happen, because we don't have respect for anything that has to do with accountability and spending.
Dr. Okengu, now, from all we've been talking about, I'm thinking, shouldn't there be some kind of conditions to be met before bailout is given out to states?
Exactly. That's what I've been struggling to say all this while. I mean, if you have this money, government has announced that we're going to be investing, and that's why I said let's call it capital injection. Okay, now this money is there, but for you to qualify to take it, these are what we need for you to be able to show. First and foremost, you need to have a business plan or an injection plan and an ROI and how you're going to be an impact. Okay, this is what it is we're going to be using this money for. Okay, then that is one at the level. Then you need to start creating these ownership structures that makes everybody who is supposed to be part of that ownership thing buy into it. Okay, to say, because this is money that states are going to be paying back to the federal government of Nigeria. It's not their usual allocations that come with these the fake allocations or fake sharing. This is money that the federal government is lending to you that your children are going to be paying back. Remember that those who are not born today, this is a 30-year loan. Yes. In the next 30 years are going to be paying back that money.
Is it realistic?
Yeah, and you need to show them. I mean, hello, a 30-year-old man, most of them would have been married. Those of them who are women would have had kids. Okay, you should be able to say 30 years ago, we took a collective decision to be able to do X, Y, Z to get us to ABC. And that's why I'm saying that if we have a program, the president means well. I mean, if he had his way from the way he's responded each time, because he says, I lived on salaries, okay, if there's anything I owe anybody, it makes certain that everybody gets a pay. But what percentage of Nigerians are actually employed by the public and civil sector? You'll be shocked. Less than 9% of the population, or less than 10%. At the state level, even smaller. But there are so much you can be able to do to now get people involved in that governance process, and then people can begin to now help the state grow by paying their taxes, by opening up new businesses. What would this be? Energy will be key. Okay? Maybe road infrastructure will be key. Maybe skills and education centers will be key. But there has to be that output that ties clearly to the investments that's been injected. Otherwise, we'll just be going round and round in circles. We might just be looking for another bill of before the president leaves office.
Okay, Dr. Abdurrahman, these loans have to be paid back. What should be done to defaulting states?
Please, kindly come again.
I said these bailouts are loans to the state governments. What should be done to states that can't pay back?
You see, the misconception is this: the loan is not a loan to state government, to state governors. It's a loan to the state, to the people of the state. Everybody is a stakeholder. Every citizen of that particular state is a debtor. You know, the question is a question that is piercing the heart of the conversation, which is if they cannot pay back. If they cannot pay back, it's our money, and that has been our attitude in this part of the world. It's our money. The money belongs to the people. So if you give the people loan and they don't pay back, all you need to do is to forget about the loan. In this case, what the federal government can do is to reschedule, because from what has happened with this 18.2 billion that is to be given, shows that the states are in default already. So that they don't default, and then it will not impact the lives of the people. That is why federal government is giving them another loan. So it's more or less like you've been given a loan, you fail to pay, and then you are now given another loan to be used to offset the previous loan. So the loan will continue endlessly. The only thing that is feasible now is for state to devise means that are germane to raising their revenue and ensuring that their IGR is increased tremendously, and other sources of businesses that will add value to the lives of the people so that they can be able to pay back. Don't forget the fact that the states are not owing federal government alone, they are owing donors. So if you check the revenue profile of the state, it is growing by the day. And that is why I said earlier on, as we continue to elect people into positions of authority, we should be able to look for people that will win our state from the feeding bottle democracy that we have that shares money from Abuja, and you can take loan without payment. They will still give you loan to offset the debt that you are owing. In the end, there will be nothing left to be given to offset the debt
you are trying to say that the state governments or governors should find out creative ways of generating revenue. Now, Dr. Okengu, your final words to this subject.
I think the federal government should sit with the states, set up some kind of technical support group, okay, that should sit with the states and then see what they want to do with this money before releasing the money to them. And then set up a national implementation committee, set up this M&E committee, and make certain that you follow the money. Okay, for every 1 naira you give to any state, there has to be a clear understanding of where that money is going, how long it's going to be staying there. If the ones that are going to recurrent should be clearly defined. Because by the end of the day, they will tell you that they use the whole of 18 billion to pay salaries. And then what are you going to do about it?
Well, thank you for sharing your insights. I guess this conversation has to continue some other time because there's still a lot more to talk about. Thank you for your insights. That's the program today, but don't forget, you can watch this and other editions on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. But let me not forget to thank our guests who have been sharing their insights with us. Dr. Emeka Okengu, a development economist. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. Good night, Nigeria.
And Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having us.
And that's it. Thank you for watching. I am Lydia Odide Ochi. Let's do this again tomorrow. Goodbye.